Okay, so let's create some cool looking eyes for our character creator. Now any eye we create here we can add to our custom library. I'm not going to do that during this tutorial. I'm just going to show you how to create the eyeballs. First thing to remember to make it easy, if you haven't loaded your default texture editor, load it into your preferences. So edit, preferences, scroll down to the bottom, under preferences, under system, click on the little magnifying glass, find where your texture editor executable is. Mine's, I'm using Affinity Photo. So double click and that will then load the default editor. So if I want to edit this image, the diffuse image now, I can click on it, and here I'm only showing the left pupil. So just to make it easier, not distracting. So all I do is click on the base color, click on this little icon here, and that will launch my external editor. So in my case, it's Affinity Photo. So you can see I've got a blank image loaded, and that's the image that you can see here. The reason you're seeing these other options here is because we've got the ambient occlusions, and we've got the other options within the roughness and everything. So hence why we're just getting the white. Now we're only interested in designing this part in the center of the eye. We want to keep it as a digital human eye. Just then we get the good reflections, the nice reflections and everything. So let's flick on over. Now all of my vector editing, I'm using Affinity Designer. You can use Illustrator or any other vector program you're comfortable with. You may just have to alter your workflow to cater for the effects that I'm using, just to make the whole design easier to do and quicker and faster. But there's so many ways to do these sort of effects. So let's start off with this generic basic eye, and as you'll see, there's not many elements to it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first base object here is just an ellipse or a circle. If we click on our FX tab down the bottom here, and here's a little hint. In Affinity Designer, you've got a Quick Effects tab and you've got the Layer Effects tab. Now, here's the difference between the two, and I'll show you the inner glow, for example. Under the Effects tab, the Layer Effects tab, you'll have more options throughout any of these selections that you click on. You'll have a lot more options to play with. If you only select in the Quick Effects, you'll get the basics. So if you're following along and you find you haven't got all the options I have, make sure you're using this layer effects down here. I'll leave them both open so you can see the difference. So for the first one, for the first bottom shape, I'm using an inner glow, just with the normal blend, and I've given this a small radius just to give it that look here. In the second example, we'll show you the same effect, but using a gradient to achieve the same result. The second option, or the second layer of the eye, once again, I'm using an inner glow. So the same as the first one, only on the second one, I've got a blue color, and I have changed the radius and the intensity, just so I get that nice inner glow once again. The third layer of the eye is using a few more options. So once again, we're using an inner shadow let's turn these off for now. So the inner shadow here, we're getting this nice shape, and we're using the offset tool and a degree to get this nice darker area and offset it. Of course, you can click the offset tool, you can move it manually, or you can use the degree. The second thing we're doing is an outer glow. Now the outer glow is just going to give it an ever so slight blue on the outside for contrast. And then we're using a Gaussian blur, or Gaussian blur, however you want to pronounce it. I say Gaussian blur. And 2.3 pixels is enough just to soften it off a little bit. So that's that layer. So when we overlay it, you can see we're getting that nice highlight in the shadow. Our fourth layer is just a simple black circle. And our fifth layer is another circle with a Gaussian blur of 5.5. And there's our first eye. If we highlight every layer here, and I can Control C to copy it, and I go back into Affinity Photo and paste it. Now, I'll make sure I paste it into the center of this screen here. And so where are we? Center. So this one here, this one here. So as you can see, here's one I've done a little bit earlier. So make sure I paste that into the center. Hit Control S. What that's going to do is save flatten layers. And when I return back into Character Creator, you'll see there's my new image. So we had before, and then obviously nice and easy. A really, really simple way to create eyes. Let's go on to the next one. The second one is exactly the same as the first. All I've done with this one is I've right-clicked on the pupil and I've convert to curves, which allows us to then edit the circle. I've added a couple of extra points by just double-clicking on the area, and then I've clicked, drag, and I can drag those points up to where I need it. If you need sharper corners, you can click on the convert to sharp. So that is all I've done with that one. Once again, we can highlight all of those. Control C, go into Affinity Photo, Control V, put them in the center. Control S, flatten the layers, have a look at our new eye. Now, as you're doing these, you can add these to your content library, custom content library, and then you've got them forever to use on your characters. The third eye we've created is exactly the same process. We're just building up on a little bit. I've created another circle, which is this one here. I right-clicked, converted to curves, and then once you convert to curves, it allows you to drag the shape out. So simply just drag a shape out, such as that one there. Give it a Gaussian blur of 0.2, and that just gives a nice soft option to the top of the eye. And the second thing I've done as well is if we turn off the Gaussian blur, you'll see I've got another circle. I've squashed it down slightly, given a little bit of opacity down to 57, 60%, whatever suits. And once again, a little bit of a Gaussian blur, and it just gives a highlight to the base of the eye there. So copy them all, Control C, go into Affinity Photo, Control V, bring it into the center, Control S to say flattened, back into Character Creator, there's another eye. So the same thing I've repeated for this eye here, only I've given it a darker shade, changed the shape slightly, changed the pupil size or the pupil shape. That one, this one looks like this, same thing. Affinity Photo, paste it in. Control S, save flattened. There's another eye. And if you're wondering, these eyes are still able to be as you can see, animate really well. Getting the nice shadows, the nice highlights. They look 3D. You've got a bit of depth to them, so really good fun. Let's go back into Affinity Designer. Let's go to a little bit more of an advanced one. This is the same again. I've just changed the shape of the pupil. Now this one here is slightly different. It's the same principle as we've done for the other 5. So the same layers. The only difference, to give it a little bit more detail, is this layer here. So as you can see, they're identical. For this layer here, if you have a look, what I've done is I've used a couple of options. So let's go through the first one, the noise texture. Some people don't know where to find the noise texture in Affinity Designer, but if you click opacity, you'll see you get this noise. It changes from opacity to noise, and it's really cool, getting detail. So just move that up to 100%, which gives us this granulated look. Then I've given it inner shadow. And on this one, I've given it a gradient overlay. Now all that's doing as you see, is it's just getting rid of the outer bit and keeping the center. So they're the two options. So I've got inner shadow, gradient overlay, and when we put that over the top, because of the granulated noise that we put in there, it just gives it that extra little bit of depth. And if you have a look down here, if I copy, so Control C, Affinity Photo, Control V, place it in the center, Control S, save flattened. Look at that. It's a really cool looking eye. Just that little bit of noise in there gives it some great attention to detail. This last one here, exactly the same principle. The only other thing I've done is added some extra detail around the eye, and I've got a few examples here, but it's really simple. So stretched out a circle. Now the only difference here is I've given it an overlay color, so it looks like that. Just a simple Gaussian blur. That's on normal, and when it's on overlay, it just brings the color through from the whatever the base color is. Just duplicated that several times to go round the shape. Easiest way to do it. Control J to duplicate, move it to the side, grab both copies of it, Control J to duplicate, use the rotation handle. I held the shift key down, so we've now got the 4. Highlight all 4, Control J to duplicate, do the same thing again, hold the shift key, do the rotation, and there we have it. So this eye, if we Control C, paste it into Affinity Photo, place it on top, Control S, save flattened, there we go. Just add us that little bit more detail. So as you can see, from the one basic shape, eye, we can get multiples. Now here's the final trick. Once you have your selection of eyes, I normally have 5 or 6 different eyes as we have here. These are just the breakdowns, so obviously you wouldn't have those ones. To change color, all you need to do is drag out another circle, and in the layers panel for overlays, change it to hue. What that'll let us allow, now when we drag this over to any eye color, we can change the eye colors. So we've got blue eyes, it's the same eye, we didn't have to change any of the underlying values. If we wanted a green eye, let's select green. If we want blue, obviously. If we want pink, red, yellow, whatever you want. And this will work on any of the eyes you create. So it's really cool. Really, really cool, quick way to get new eyes or new eye colors to match whatever character you're designing. So that's probably one of the best methods. So you have hundreds of eyes off the one step. So if you want to see the blue eye, the one we created earlier, it's the same principle obviously. Just center that off a little bit. Control C into Affinity Photo, Control V, overlay it on top. Control S, save flattened, and there we go, a nice little blue eye. So if you found any of this helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I'll continue to make the videos. Cheers.